Hey, always super casual. So joining me today, someone not new, someone very not new to my experience of podcasting. We have a writer speaker on money and family and behavioral economist. I had to read it because I usually just refer to you as my mom. FQ mom, Fres Fausto. Woo!
Hi, good day everybody. Hi Anton, thank you for having me on your Anton on One podcast.
Thank you also because this is your first time guesting here, but it's not your first time in the world of Anton One. I mean, you were there in the planning stages. You were there in the podcast before this, all of that. So
the Mom and Son podcast.
Yeah, so from there, we're here now. So to start things off, we're here to talk obviously, and to talk about your book. These are both books. So we have the first one, FQ the Intelligence, and Why Financial Education Alone Does Not Work. You already released the book a few months ago?
Yes, but it has not been formally launched yet. The launch is going to happen on March 20. So I'm inviting everybody to please join us. Watch out for the announcement.
Okay, how does it feel like? This is your fourth official. Do you consider the Retelling of Richest Man in Babylon and the Filipino version? Do you consider those as two separate?
Yes, they are actually
okay.
two separate books with their respective codes.
So this is your fifth book.
Is that right? 1,
Raising Pinoy Boys,
2, 3, 4.
Retelling Filipino, FQ, fifth book.
Yeah, but I also have two other books which are just published in ebook form. These are the Emotional Cycle of Investment, or Emotional Cycle of Investing, and the Why We Should All Mind Our FQ, which is a welcome ebook given to the FQ Mom subscribers.
But these other ebooks that you mentioned, they're not like super long, like these ones.
Well, the welcome ebook is long, but that's actually a compilation of select articles that I've written in the past. And then the Emotional Cycle of Investing, that's a very short emoji ebook to make it easy for you to understand.
So we have 5 books. Do you have a relationship with these books? Like, do you feel like they're your kids in a way?
Yes, actually, when I was asked what's your favorite, it's always difficult to answer that. But of course, you're always fussing about the latest book. So that's what's happening now. I'm fussing about my latest book, Why Financial Education Alone Does Not Work, a crash course in behavioral economics. And what's interesting about this book is that
2 sides.
it's a 2-in-1 book. Ta-da! On the flip side, it says the psychology of money, and it asks you the question, are you a rational Mak or an emotional Emong?
Okay, before we talk more about the book, quickly lang, why did you decide to have 2 sides?
Well, the book kasi is pretty long, and because of my knowledge in behavioral economics, I wanted to give your reading mind a little bit of a rest. And I also wanted that part, the psychology of money, to pop out. And so I decided, you just start na lang at the other side na lang of the book. You know, probably this is the first book that's structured this way, but I've seen this in magazines.
I would imagine that there would be like children's storybooks that are, but I don't remember
Wala pa ako nakitang libro.
in that. But it's very crazy.
Magazine, meron.
You just thought of it.
Yeah, I just thought of it kasi I wanted to give your reading mind a rest.
Yeah.
And not only the rested, there's a sense of accomplishment. Natapos na akong
only
part.
1/2.
Yeah.
But the first half isn't even 1/2. The second half is
it's short.
Much longer.
It's short, but it's quite heavy, di ba? There's so many studies that are mentioned and discussed. So, kaya kahit maiksi siya, parang feeling ko I needed to give the reading mind a respite already.
Okay.
Up to that point. I hope it works. Did it?
It did for me. I like you have 2 characters, Mak and Emong.
Yeah.
I think in a sense, it also gives you that, because you're really studying the 2 sides of your brain. So the 2 sides of the book sort of help send that message.
Yes.
Even more. But with the message of your book, we're not here to talk about the entire book, like to explain everything.
They have to buy and read?
Yes, of course. But I think the thing that struck me the most is the whole concept palang, the title. It can really, pwede siyang it could cause a lot of controversy. And especially with yourself. I want to ask first about your journey with yourself. You have been teaching financial education for a long time, you and Papa are, you give talks about this, you preach this, you teach it. But then now this book is sort of in a way contradicting all those years of work that you have done. So how did you reach that place when you realized na everything I've been doing pala, hindi ito sapat?
Hindi sapat. Oh, it's more of a discovery than contradicting. Well, there is a little bit of contradiction in the sense that at first we would always believe na, okay, teach them how, ganun naman, di ba? Teach them how to fish and they will live a lifetime. Parang ganon, in that sense. Sabi nga ni Kuya Kim, knowledge is power. But the reality is, what studies show is that knowledge is just knowledge until it is operationalized. Meron nga akong Tagalog translation kasi there is this nice quote. It says that it is nothing unless it is lived in the bones. So ako sa Tagalog, sinabi ko, chismis lang yan hanggat hindi isinabuhay.
Okay.
Kasi, and siguro even before I stumbled upon that meta-analysis, and when I say meta-analysis, that means hindi lang isa, dalawa, tatlo, 10 studies ang inaral. This is over 200 studies. Inaral nila yung mga different studies on the effect of financial education, on the improvement of financial behavior.
And you've been doing your own meta-analysis also of different works, different sources.
In a way, I don't want to call it meta-analysis kasi hindi naman ganun ka-scientific yung process ko. But I would also observe and take down notes. And then I realized, ganyan talaga Ganyan naman talaga tayo sa mga important aspects of our life. Usually, we already know what we're supposed to do. Mm-hmm. But a lot of factors get in the way na hindi natin nagagawa kahit it is already so clear in our mind. Ito, when it comes to health, di ba? Alam naman natin.
To sleep early, eat healthy.
Yes, di ba? But then our limbic system, our emong, emotional emong, get in the way. And the dream of this book is to really make that part of yung parang naiintindihan ng ordinaryong tao. Parang it's common sense already so that we can protect ourselves na hindi na tayo feelingero na alam ko na yan alam mo naman talaga na lahat ng mga importante halos na bagay sa mundo pero hindi mo lang na isasagawa.
With this whole Mak and Emong thing, so Mak would be the rational, makatuwiran, Emong is the emotional side, the emotional part of our brain and how humans are emotional beings. You mentioned how there are a lot of basic things that are very important for us to live our lives, but we don't do them. With this book, the way I read it and understood it, it's not really, I don't want to have the perspective that we're correcting a wrong behavior. It's not that we were consciously doing bad decisions because we didn't love ourselves. We didn't want what's best for us. Because I think everybody wants what's best for them. It's just that in this book, it's sort of phrased and it helps us understand ourselves better, no? Kasi when you would say our emotional decisions get in the way, example, there's a sale, the emong part of us would be like, okay, I'm gonna spend for this sale now without even really thinking masyado if I need it, all those things. But it's not because you're not buying the sale because you don't love yourself. You're buying in the sale because you're buying for yourself. So in a way, it's not necessarily correcting now if you listen to Emong, it's wrong. You always have to listen to Mak. Where do you find the balance in that? Because everyone's emotional beings. And it's I wouldn't want to say that the book is telling you to go against human nature. But it's more of like an understanding better on how we can deal with the decisions that we make so that we get to protect our future selves, right?
I like that you asked it that way. Kasi, di ba, if you recall, those who read the FQ Book 1, there is an FQ score there, di ba? So that one, the higher, the better talaga. And then in the next book, this is FQ Book 2, what we have here is the me or Mak Emong score. Mm-hmm. So you're either 100-0, di ba, 90-10, 80-20, and so on. And then when readers would ask me, oh, my score is it's very low. So they're saying na it's very low on the makatwiran or
Yeah.
the rational side. How do I make it higher? Yun yung tanong nila sa akin eh. So, this is my answer and I hope it will explain what you asked me, Here, there is definitely, you go as high as you can.
Good and bad.
Here, the best answer there is the honest answer. So kahit na ikaw ay super emong ka, that your me score is something like 1090, that's it. That is who you are. That is
Yeah.
how you are wired. Because me, I've been studying this for years, and my makatwiran, my
Do
me
you have a score?
yeah, I have magugulat siguro yung mga tao when they find out that my me score is actually 4159. So I'm
41
Mak.
Mak.
Yes. And that is an awareness, a realization, and humility na ganun ako. So, when it comes to the principles, for example, ego depletion, alam kong pag ako gutom, mainit ang ulo, the decisions that I might make will not be very sound. So, yung ganon. So, what it does is really not to get rid of your emongness, but to acknowledge, to
Yeah.
embrace, and so you can now go and protect yourself from yourself. I always say that, protect
Yeah.
yourself from yourself. Parang stock market investing, parang pagbili-bili ng sale, pag-save and invest. So if you already know na eto yung weakness mo, gawan mo na ng paraan.
It's really designing your life in a way that best suits you. If I could use an analogy that probably is more concrete than and people can really see it, would be fitness. I always like going to health and fitness as a way
Actually,
to sort
very
of...
parallel sila, ha?
Yeah.
Wealth and health.
Because there are people who, let's say, your metabolism isn't that fast. There are certain
Perfect, yeah.
there are certain foods that hit you a different way, but that doesn't mean you're better or worse. It's just you have to understand ano ba yung raw materials ko and how should I approach it? Do I need more cardio? Do I need more weight? Is it carbs? Is this a certain thing? And the thing that I find kind of shocking is that health and fitness, there are so many there are so many coaches, there are so many gyms, there are so many ways to there are many professions alive already that's dealing with it.
Yes.
But then when it comes to this in financial intelligence and dealing with your money, your personal relationship with your money, how come you think that how come now lang 2021 there's someone in the Philippines talking about how it's not financial education it's not just that there is a deeper understanding that we need for it to work, kasi it's not like people haven't money isn't new. It's not like we don't have money problems in the earlier times pa. Did you ever think about bakit
ngayon lang?
Ba't ngayon?
Bakit ngayon ka lang dumating sa buhay ko? Sige, kantahin niyo yun for the book. I think it's because using financial education as the answer to our money problems, as the answer to poverty, is very seductive. It's it's actually very intuitive. Kung tutuusin mo, di ba? Kung alam mo na, di gagawin mo na. But the weakness of that is the way we understand the human wiring. So, kung ang human wiring ay talagang Mr. Spock, tayong lahat, very rational, very makatuwirang Mak, kayang-kaya yon. But our beauty as human beings, di ba, is that we are so
You're emotional,
unpredictable,
irrational.
These irrationalities are other things that also make us beautiful. Tapos, ang nangyari rin, my observation is that as we go on, over the years, we are also designing our environment such that it's so much easier to spend rather than save and invest. I'll give you an example. Nung araw, long time ago, before you could buy anything, you have to have the cash for it, di ba? You have to dress up, go out, and buy that thing. And then the credit card came. So ngayon, even if you still didn't have the cash, you could buy. Pero syempre, may I dress up ka muna. Ngayon, iba na talaga. You can shop 24/7 in your PJs. Anytime, anywhere, there's internet. Ganyan. So,
It's even easier now with online
oo,
shopping.
So, pahirap ng pahirap ang mag-save and invest. Padali ng padali yung pag-spend.
Oh, okay. So in how like time has progressed and how people interacted, if you imagine before barter trade, mas talagang mahirap yun kasi you need to, if you want something, you have to make sure what you have is something that person wants.
Yes.
And then money was invented and new ways of spending. So, am I right to interpret it as the spending act has become more easy, accessible, but medyo we're lagging behind when it comes to the saving investing?
Oo. Kasi ang nangyari, nawalan tayo nung opportunity to pause. 'Di ba? Dati, you will pause kasi may pera na ba ako? Wala pa. So that's the parang built-in pause 'yan. Eh ngayon wala eh. Ang nangyayari pa, we are so stimulated by all the posts. Nung araw, we just wanted to please the people around us physically, 'di ba? Your parents, siguro your teachers, your classmates. Ngayon we have to please everybody.
Even people you only met once 10 years ago.
Exactly. And you're exposed to inggit factor ng everybody also.
So you wanna
so,
buy even more.
So much. Yeah. Can you see what I'm saying,
Yeah.
di ba? Sobrang the environment has been so designed na ang dali-dali na talagang magwaldas ng pera kaysa mag-ipon. And that is why there is this big need to understand our wiring and then to come up with the design that will make it easier for us to do the right thing more effortlessly.
So is this book is a money book, but is it really a book about money or it's more about understanding yourself?
It's both, because money is money is really the psychology, the emotion. Ang kailangan
It's just
mo
how
lang.
it's shown. The money decision is just like a reflection of what's going on behind the scenes.
That's right. Diba we say it's an enabler, it's an exaggerator. Tapos kung ano ba yung mga dinamdam mo ng bata ka, dala-dala mo lahat yun, pagtanda mo, diba? So you have all of these family money stories which are very well discussed in FQ Book 1 with all the exercises on childhood money memory. So this really is it's a trilogy kasi, Anton, if you recall, diba? If you remember, kwento natin sa kanila, this was actually just one book, FQ, The Nth Intelligence. And it was so long that my critics, the boys, Marvin and my 3 sons, when I asked them to read it, sabi nila, parang nawala yung storytelling, easy to understand language because I was forcing a lot of things in a single book.
You're cramming it all, parang ganun.
Oo,
Okay.
so walang Mak Emong noon, wala parang these are the behavioral economics principles that affect the way we deal with money. Ganyan lang. Loss aversion is like this, like this. And then when I looked at your really assessed yung yung feedback nyo, sabi ko, hindi ko na boses. And that is the reason why. So I tried to figure out, paano ko ba to magiging mababalik ko dun sa parang, I'm just having coffee with Rose. So sabi ko, it can be broken down into 3 parts. At syempre, lumaki na rin, lumawak na rin because I now have the opportunity to discuss more lengthily each item. Dati isang chapter lang yan na pinaglalagay ko lang lahat eh. So I'm so happy that you guys made that comment because otherwise, wala, hindi ganun siguro ka-effective. And then si Mak Emong, sabi ko,
the story grew na lang din.
I should make them come to life. And probably this is the first time it's being discussed like this. Kasi usually pag sinabi, this is the behavioral economics principles that affect the way you deal with money. I-explain lang isa-isa. So ako, mas maganda kasi ang story eh.
Yeah.
It is because of that understanding na tayo are really storytellers. That is how we process things. That's how we understand things. Kasi sabi ko, kwento ko na lang. Actual examples per behavioral economics principle.
When I read this and just seeing your work, was it a goal for you to make these books? Because right now I feel like this is more in the ordinary. It's still in the mother style of teaching a story to your child, but it's a very educational sense na eh. Your first book, Raising Pinoy Boys, was really ikaw nagkukwento ka lang on how you raised your kids. not really a very educational classroom setting. Eh. But this one, I can imagine this as something that if you're gonna teach something that it's a basic skill, diba? It's money. It's for me. It looks like it's a bagay siya sa classroom. Did you ever envision it, or was it one of your goals to eventually create work that is gonna be used in schools, for example?
Naisip ko na lang yan with the FQ book 2.
So this one pa lang. This one lang.
Yes. And I'm actually in discussions with a university that I may be able to teach it as an elective subject.
How do you still keep it very light? I think this is something that not just for this topic, but I think a lot of topics, all the topics, there's this necessary skill to get big complex ideas and explain it simply. I think that's why this whole FQ thing worked for me and my brothers, is that when we were, it's because it started when we were kids, and you got to tell us in very simple ways all these different concepts that could seem intimidating at first. How do you ever try to look at yourself and think, how do I get to do this simplifying skill?
Well, I was really a storyteller even when I was a young girl. I joined contests. Nananalo ako as a storyteller, actually. And then the training probably went further when I had you guys, because I had to stop. I decided pala to become a full-time homemaker. But then those were the things that still interested me. Like I would read books about Warren Buffett at kung sino-sino. And how could I now discuss with you the other matters, the other things that mama would do over dinner, over lunch, di ba? So, parang na-train ako how to now explain mga finance jargon in easy to understand language. Like, di ba, yung mga small account, big account, yung mga ganon. So, that parang siguro complemented with my being a storyteller, yung being able to explain it as simply and as if you were talking to a 7-year-old. I even have that series, yung mga why is it that as the bond price interest rates go higher, the bond prices go down. Yung mga ganon, ina-explain ko
in a simple way. Okay, I'm gonna go back to the book in just a bit, but then going beyond the book, it seems like you've already found your calling or purpose in life. It was really evident in Raising Pinoy Boys that it's to raise the three of us, and that's a never-ending job naman. And then eventually you're sort of teaching also and giving advice, sharing your stories and your experiences with other moms and other parents. And now here it's in the financial, still teaching, but it's in the financial education on how people can have better relationships with their money and eventually, have enough for their retirement and live better lives. Are you sure that this is, do you have the feeling that that this is your purpose in life, your calling?
Yeah, ako ang tingin ko kasi sa calling, it comes in stages. Like at the start, I felt that my calling was to be a good student. Tapos when I got married, to be a good wife and a good mother. So ganon. Pero syempre siguro, it's always using what God gave you. Na saan ka ba, ano bang gift ang binigay sa'yo? So parang ganun na yung ginagawa ko. Parang yung Japanese philosophy ng Ikigai effect.
Okay. Can you please explain it?
Okay, Ikigai is the intersection of that which you are good at with that which you are fond of. Kasi kung minsan, kahit na tuwa ka, hindi ka naman magaling. Diba? So magkaiba yun. That which you can get paid for and that which the world needs from you.
So, in the different phases of your life, that was sort of your guide.
Yes. Actually, nauna dati si Frederick Buechner yung sabi niya, God calls us to a place where our deep gladness meets the world's deep hunger. And that was the reason na sinulat ko yung Raising Pinoy Boys.
Okay. What I'm imagining kasi now, so you are 56 now, and you've come up with these books, and you're gonna come up with another book. This could look like, besides your family, of course, this looks like what your legacy is gonna be.
Wow.
Na it's gonna be FQ mom, diba? That's how you're gonna be. Hopefully, that's how you're gonna be remembered. Are you satisfied that if this is going to be the last sort of calling? Kasi you had a student, wife, mother, FQ mom. Are you satisfied if this is the last stage? Like, this is the last calling you're gonna have? Or do you think that there's a bunch more pa to come in the future?
Well, I would always think about it nga that way. If I were to die tomorrow, parang ganyan, ano, okay ka na ba? Parang I'm in a place right now na feeling ko what I'm doing naman makes sense and it has gone beyond my immediate family.
Mhm.
And sobrang tuntua ako talaga, Anton. And I always share this with you if I get feedback, messages.
Yeah.
Oo, yung mga parents, mga ganyan. You know, mga siguro 4 or 5 years ago, I gave this talk about raising children with high FQ. And then, a guy approached me and sabi niya, you know, Rose, itong effect ng ginagawa mo na to, mararamdaman mo pa yan many years from now because they will now say, alam mo, yung anak ko, kasi nabasa ko yung Raising Pinoy Boys, pinagawa ko ng balance sheet. Tapos nangyayari na ngayon.
Do you remember how many years ago was this conversation?
Well, tagal na kasi Raising Pinoy Boys was 10 years ago. It was launched 10 years ago. So naka-isang dekada na po pala ako.
Tagal na nga. If you didn't get all these messages and I saw your posts, food for your soul.
Yes.
How different do you think things will be for you?
If I wasn't, kumbaga, given that fuel.
Yeah,
na,
like you're teaching the same things, but there's no feedback. There's no one saying thank you or you know, or praising you about these.
You know what? I don't know. Baka, you know, I'm vain also. Oh, if it would have something to do about lifestyle, how to, di ba yung mga sinusulat ko, oh, ito pala, magandang kwento lang. So I was in this big gathering, parang summit ng financial. I was one of the speakers. And then after the event, somebody approached me, sabi niya, FQ mom, I follow you. And you know what my favorite article that you wrote? Siyempre, akala ko, Raising Children High, FQ, mga sabi niya, ano? Sabi niya, how to fit in your wedding gown after 25 years. So, yun yung favorite niya. Ganun ba? Sabi ko, so natawa ko. So, I'm stretching eh. So, hindi ko alam kasi kung ano yung sasagot ko sa'yo. But, I'm looking at my, kung ano ako, di ba? Sabi mo, kung wala akong positive feedback on my being FQ mom, baka arte mom or something.
Okay. Kasi I think the reality of these mga finding your purpose and calling, like, yeah, you do what the world needs and you do what you love to do, but you know, we're emotional social beings. Yes. And I know that there's this constant effort for me as well to not mind what other people are doing, to focus on yourself, all these things. But you can only focus on yourself so much. I can imagine let's say you brought up Raising Pinoy Boys 10 years ago, then you didn't have there was no feedback whatsoever. Nothing good is being said to you. I would take that as a sign na maybe this isn't your calling.
Correct. That's why nga we also have to be careful, di ba yung sinasabi na don't listen to what others say.
Yeah.
I think you have to listen to what others say. You just have to pick kung sino yung others na yun. Di ba?
Yeah. Kasi important din yun eh.
Yeah.
That's important then to have that. Although we call it food for the soul, it isn't why you do it, but it sure helps.
Yeah. Actually, it is already part of your why. Kasi alam mo, if you reach midlife, that's what I felt eh. Parang
what would be midlife years for you?
In my 40s.
Okay.
Para bang there was a yearning to be useful beyond your family. Especially kasi me, di ba, I stopped being an investment banker and then full-time homemaker. And lalaki nyo na. So para bang I came to that crossroads, what else? Now that the boys are all grown up, and I had to really step back kasi baka masyado naman ako maging helicopter parent. Na? Mga lalamya naman kayo niyan. So, yun yung naisip ko. Magsulat kaya ako and share what I have. Kasi nag-journal ako noon eh. So, that's what I came up with.
Okay, so let's go to the book. I have my book here. So there are a lot of behavioral economics principles that you taught. I want to know what because we heard the stories of Mak and Emong, but how about FQ Mom? This one, I want to go to...
Anong page yan?
I'm not sure the exact page. Loss aversion / sunk cost.
Okay. The loss aversion is the first principle I discussed.
So it's about feeling the impact of a loss twice as much as the impact of a gain. So there's also a cheat sheet here, so you can see the different. It's gonna describe. Sorry, it's gonna explain all the principles, and then you have like a sort of summary in the end. So if this becomes in the classroom, I probably would have been the student that was looking at this mostly the day before a test. So let's go to loss aversion.
Yes.
So the principle here is that humans, we feel the effects of a loss way more than the feeling of a gain. If I earn 10 pesos, nice. If I lose 10 pesos, it hurts much
as if
more.
it were 20, at least 20 pesos lugi.
Yeah. Is it a scientific thing that it's times
It's
2?
scientifically. Yeah, it's minimum parang something
Minimum.
like 2.25 pa yata.
Could it's even more. Have you ever dealt with this? Like,
yeah.
what experiences do you have with this? Because
Well, in the stock market, kunyari kumita ka ng 1,000 pesos, oy, galing-galing ko. Pero pagka that same stock bumagsak and then you end up losing 1,000 pesos, ang sakit. Mas masakit yung pakiramdam, mas mabigat yung pakiramdam nung loss kaysa yung happiness mo nung kinita mo yung the same amount na 1,000 pesos. Because that is the way we are wired. Parang nandun tayo sa negative nakatutok. At saka we also like kasi yung meron tayong baseline may status quo. So para bang kung yun binagsak mo, mas matindi yung pakiramdam mo doon.
then if you go up?
Yeah. And it is not, sabi ko nga, in the book, I really lengthily discuss this loss aversion beyond money, even with the way a husband and wife would be. If you recall, di ba ito 2:1. Mas masakit 2 pain points to 1 happy
Husband,
points.
wife, 5.
Oo, 5:1. Sabi nung Gottman couple, sila po ang mga marriage experts na for every isang kainisan lang sa mag-asawa, dapat may katapat na 5 lovey-dovey.
Wow.
Di ba ang bongga? Parang sobra.
Do you have, can you think of like a past experience you had,
With
a money
Papa?
memory, with the loss aversion, where you were afraid of how intense it would feel to lose, that it sort of clouded your judgment, or kasi what I'm worried about with this reality is that we're too afraid of losing that we kind of stop taking risks to get something that could be good for us.
That's correct. When the financial crisis, kasi kami ni Papa, we just save and invest regularly. Parang talagang clockwork.
When you say
every
financial
month.
crisis, sorry, what was this?
This is the 2008.
Okay.
Sobrang laglag.
Is this the Big Short? Is that the movie
that's
is about?
the Big Short era. Lumaglag siya. My God, 50+%.
Yeah.
So, ang sakit, di ba? So, para bang, because naramdaman mo masyado yung sakit na yun, I was not so gung-ho in continuing
The habit.
Parang, teka, but I didn't sell. But para bang, itong investment ko for the month, medyo hinold back ko.
You had more for cash.
Oo, anyway, which was, looking back, dapat tinuloy ko lang kasi that was the opportune time to buy, di
Because it
ba?
was to go.
So, those are my own experiences of loss aversion. Parang huminto ako kasi parang sabi ko, imagine kasi kahapon lang ganito tapos ngayon nabawasan na naman ng 20%. Bukas, so, ang sakit-sakit talaga masyado. But, as I went on, ginagawa ko kasi, I would really prepare the balance sheet and I would see. So, kung meron kang record na, di ba? Sabi mo, had I done it, tuloy-tuloy lang. So, as you do that, parang nawawala na yung effect ni loss aversion sa'yo. Mas makakayanin mo na. But because I know that I'm still human and I'd always feel pa rin, no? Tinanggal ko na yung every month power from me to do the investing.
Okay.
Automate.
Where did you get this? You talked about this a lot, the having a system already in place, automating. Where did you get that whole practice and idea of? Because again, it doesn't go with just money. You use the fitness example also. If you wanna, before you turn on your phone, dapat naka-workout clothes ka na. That's a very I love these may mga hacks na you don't need a lot of money, you don't need talent or anything to have these hacks, but they are so crucial and can have huge effects in the goals that you want to do.
So where did I get that? Siguro when I was young, medyo may na-observe na rin ako di ba? With ulam, kunyari, kung wala ka namang ulam na junk. Bawa, hindi ka, yung mga naririnig ko ng mga bacon, kasi yun ang gusto. Pero kung hindi mo bigyan, mapipilitan kang kainin kung anong nandyan, di ba? So that's really like a hack. It's a choice architecture. So that's why I already had these things in mind. And when I discovered behavioral economics back in 2010, when I first read the book Predictably Irrational by Dan Ariely, parang natuwa ako kasi I found a label to what was already at the back of my mind. Di ba tuwa kapag gano'n na ko-confirm yung mga belief mo na especially if you are not able to really articulate things very well.
Yeah.
And then you find someone who was scientifically...
Who does.
Yes.
And tama pala tong hunch ko from
before.
before.
Di syempre, may I write to Dan Ariely, then Richard Thaler, Daniel Kahneman. So yun, that's what started this thing, my journey on behavioral economics.
With these principles, I see some similarities in loss aversion, viewing twice the impact of a loss compared to a gain, and the sunk cost fallacy. When do you know when to sort of cut your losses? Do you have any FQ mom guide also? Like, if you're gonna buy luxury, you have to afford 10 times of it. When it comes to these things, because yes, we're afraid of losses, but we still we have to experience the losses. And not all losses aren't, I'm gonna hold on to it until it gains again. Like, do you have like a sort of guide on how to determine when it's time to let go?
Oo. Alam mo, pwede sa stocks, pwede sa relationship, pwede sa isang activity that you're pursuing, ano. When we assess something kasi, if something is not doing as expected, as we had hoped for, parang we tend to give a lot of weight to what we have already put in.
Yeah.
And we forget to assess it. Para bang from now on, ano pa yung i-invest ko? At from now on, ano pa ba yung pwedeng kitain dito? Or return on this relationship or this activity, this endeavor. So, hindi ko sinasabi na pagka pumalpak na, hinto ka na kagad. Wala, you will not succeed if that's how you work. Diba there's this, parang cartoons na yung nagdidig siya. Nagdidig siya.
Tapos
nag-give up na siya, nandun na. So, babalansehin talaga natin yun, ano?
Yeah.
I don't want you to give up so easily kasi nga grit tayo dyan, ano?
Yeah.
But, I think what you can ask yourself, and this is probably like a simple hack question, if I had not invested this much, if it were a stock, or kung babae, kung hindi ko pa to niligawan at ginastusan ng ilang dozens of roses and chocolates, well, would I still want to pursue her?
If the relationship started today.
Yes, ganyan. So, yun
okay.
siguro yung bibigay sa inyo ng clarity whether it is still worth pursuing or dapat cut loss na kayo kasi masasunk cost fallacy ka kung hindi.
Okay. Let's go to another concept, another principle, the confirmation bias. And this is something we can really relate to in terms of social media. There's this movie, I think you watch it also, Social Dilemma, how what we see online in Facebook and all the social media channels are things that sort of confirm what we already thought about before, which even strengthens that that idea that we have. Do you also have basic lang, like, do you have any guide also how to check yourself, how to, kasi syempre if you have an idea, how do I know it's correct? Let me research about it. But the research you're gonna see are the ones that say yes. Do you have any like guide as to how to check that?
Okay, so i-clarify din natin yung confirmation bias po. That means that we tend to only look at the evidence that confirms what we had already believed in the first place. So yun yung confirmation bias. And it goes against yung scientific thinking, which is to always question your theory, di ba? Kung may hypothesis ka, tama ba to? Ganyan. Ngayon, dahil sa the way the algorithms work, for example, somebody who is Googling about climate change.
Yeah.
Dito, meron mapapakita sa kanya mga articles.
Suggestions.
Yes. Pero yung another person in another side of the world, sasabihin, mag-google siya, iba ang ipapakita kung iba yung belief nung tao na yon. And that is the reason why tayo, di ba, lalo na yung mga 'di ba? Kagaya sa atin, Dilawan versus Duterte, 'di ba? Lalong nai-ignite yan, lalo tayo nagiging polarized kasi pag nag-Google tayo, lahat ng lumalabas sa atin, yun yung mga gusto natin makita eh.
That agrees with us.
Yeah, kaya sabihin natin, napaka-stupid naman nila. Why can't they see the way we see things clearly?
So, mas lalo nagkakaroon ng one side. And then, nagkakaroon ng two sides.
Yeah, kasi sila sa kabila, yun din ang sinasabi sa inyo.
Yeah.
So, given that, siguro there has to be a more deliberate effort to look for what is wrong with your assumption. To look for what is wrong with this thing that I think saktong-sakto na. And that is how you will succeed. Kasi the likes of Charlie Munger, siya yung partner ni Warren Buffett for the longest time.
Okay.
Ganun siya. Sabi niya, the greatest thing to do is for you to destroy.
What's wrong with my assessment?
To destroy your original beliefs. Ikaw na, unahan mo na yung sarili mo. Unahan mo na ibang tao. Pati rin naman si Ray Dalio, siya naman yung parang siguro the best hedge fund manager, pinakamalaki yung kanyang Bridgewater. Lagi siyang ganon. And he really exposes himself to all his employees na I am free to be criticized in the things that I believe in. So, gagawan mo siguro ng ganon.
How often do you do that?
I don't know, di ba tayo, I raised you guys to be very opinionated. Sometimes may pakry-cry pa ako pagka nagkakaroon tayo ng discussion. But I thought that was the way to go. I didn't want you to just, especially I have a very strong personality, di ba?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want you to just say, okay ma, I'll just obey you. Di ba that's my hate test? Na pagka meron ko kaming mga diskusyones, tapos, okay, ano yung ayaw na ayaw ko? Sinabi mo, okay ma. Pero walang engagement. Sabi ko, there's something wrong there. So, yung mga ganon.
Para tapos na yung argument. With this confirmation bias, though, and in the bigger picture, this why financial education alone does not work goes against a lot of people, a lot of corporations, big companies, those that you have even worked with. And the confirmation bias could be applied here, that here's someone that is saying everything that we've been doing, and there is research that what we're doing is correct. We're not just doing this because wala lang, we just guess to do it. How are you dealing with that reality that there are people who aren't going to agree with you? I don't know, have you gotten any backlash yet about the whole topic of this book?
Well, not yet right after this was released. But in the previous articles that I've written, meron na rin. And they would say na, bakit ganon? Akala ko, para bang we are doing this together, ganyan, ano. But I think it's just more of explaining. And if the people naman that you work with respect you and know that you're not just doing that, na gusto mo lang mang-inis, gusto mo lang maging kontrapelo, there would be a healthy discussion. And ako din naman, I would always remind myself that my own biases are a product of how I grew up, diba? My environment, my circumstances right now. So, having that in mind, parang hindi dapat ang discussion is like a debate na may mananalo at matatalo.
Mm-hmm.
So, ngayon, we are very aware of biases na. Diba? Yung mga biases against the colored people, yung mga ganyan, gender biases, etc., etc. So, we are now coming to this age where ang biases naman kasi, for me, it has to be treated as the human brain's way of simplifying things. Diba? Kung meron kang nakitang nakakatakot yung itsura, that is your mind's way of protecting you para tumakbo ka na. But then, we also know na we can be discriminating. Just because siya yung nandito sa mind natin na typical na bad person. So, yung mga ganong type. So, right now, with this, all I want to ask really is to have an open mind and bring it to a discussion, no? That's why I really put a lot of studies there, scientific studies that really talk about why financial education nga is not the answer. Kasi it can be dangerous when we now put our resources. Habawa, yung gobyerno, iro-roll out na niya to, no? Na, dapat tutunan mo lahat-lahat na yan. And then, just because naka-A ka dun sa financial literacy course mo in your
okay
grade
ka na.
12, sasabihin ng gobyerno, okay ka na. Tapos, ikaw nahahayaan na mamili kung anong financial products ang okay sa'yo. We don't do that when it comes to our medicine, di ba? On what kind of treatment we need or on what kind of legal help we need if we get into trouble with the law. So I think it's also the same thing when it comes to finance. Financial instruments have been so designed na medyo mahirap nang intindihin ng regular one, di ba? So we have to protect. Yun yung point ko It may be dangerous to keep on believing that financial education is the answer to poverty, is the answer to improve your financial behavior because alam mo talaga, I really wish it were, but evidence shows na hindi 0.1%. That is negligible. And if you have, di ba nga yung pinag-uusapan natin ngayon, yung mga vaccine, ayaw pa nila yung mga 80-70%, di ba? Ito, 0.1%. So, in the same way as we assess these things, these mandates, siguro, mga government initiatives, because we will be using limited resources, we have to be very careful in what to prescribe in order to find a solution to a big problem. This is a very big problem, Anton. You know that. Poverty is such a huge problem, not just in the Philippines, but all over the world.
There's something in you wrote, I'm not sure if it's in the beginning of the book. If before you had your big lofty dream that everybody will have a relationship with money and easily talk about money as it'll be a habit, just like brushing your teeth. Yeah. There's another version in this one. I don't know if that's what you were going with, but how it was sort of like a message to those people nga, or corporations that disagree with this whole idea, this whole what you're pushing for in this book, na financial education alone doesn't work, because you aren't going against them. You're not saying that it's me versus you, because the financial corporations, institutes, and you're trying to help the everyday Filipino be able to learn more about money. Do you remember it? Can you say in your own words that why you're doing this? It's not going against them, and there can be this fight, but at the end of the day, the one you're trying to help is the one that doesn't.
So I think I said something like, yes, financial education as the answer is very seductive and it makes everybody happy. All the stakeholders, if we just agree that this is the answer, then everybody happy. However, the person that we are trying to help will not be helped if we just keep on this illusion that financial education is the answer. And I think the lofty dream of this book is to really make itong mga Ivy League-ish jargon very mainstream. Para you can hold yourself back. Teka, ego depletion ako. Wag muna ako dyan. Ayoko munang mag-shopping kasi sama ng loob ko. Di ba baliktad? Sasabihin mo, kailangan ko mag-retail therapy. I feel so bad. Yeah. But knowing that principle, you can now guard yourself. Sasabihin mo, teka, ego depletion ako. Tapos, kung yung...
Reward mo na lang after. Maybe look for a more productive pampahappy.
Oo.
And then...
Tsaka na. I think what I really want people to do is have more pauses in order to allow naman si Mak to come to surface. Kasi lagi nauuna si Emong
That's something... I didn't look at it that way with pauses. I've been having this practice of being more mindful and present. I've been meditating every day. And it's really about pausing, being present in the moment. It really manifests in many, many ways. Kasi the one I've been, the sessions I've been having, it's about dealing with anxiety, overthinking, worrying. It's also in money because, going back to what you were talking about a while ago, it's so easy to spend. There's no more pauses. I need to buy this. I just get my phone, boom, bigay ka na kaagad. Compared to, I paused, wait lang, do I need this? So it's not that people who end up spending so quickly, they're not bad people. You're not lacking. It's just that the world that we live in, it's so easy to do that. So here is one of the steps to help the other side naman in our spending, to slow down our spending, to pause, so that we get to spend for the things that truly matter to us. No?
That is so correct. We are both Mak and Emong. So we just have to be very honest and embrace our miscourse so that we know how to deal with it. We know where to put the pauses. We know where to put, sabi nga dito, meron yung just-in-time education. Diba? Kung tuturuan mo yung mga nasa grade 12 kung ano yung mortgages, hindi pa bibili ng bahay yan eh. Diba? Turuan mo sila for the knowledge, but then you put another thing when it comes to their actual time. Siguro, I don't know, pero this will now be part of the FQ Book 3, yung mga actual design concepts na para it's gonna be easier for you. Although in FQ Book 2, meron na ako mga bits and pieces.
Yeah, but it's more on... So, FQ Book 1 is like an introduction.
It's your relationship
It's your relationship with money. Number 2, it's understanding how we deal with money
Your wiring.
and the decisions that we make. And book 3 would be more of implementing.
Yes,
is
it's
that
going
right?
to be high FQ by design.
Okay. Do you have an idea, a target of when to release this?
Naku, I don't want na kasi alam ko na nga ganun. Sa behavioral economics, lagi sinasabi yan. Lagi daw tayong napaka-hopeful when we come up with schedules. Diba sabihin mo, I'm going to release the book in 2 years. Hala, 4 years. And I really intend to do a lot of experiments on this as
first.
Yes, first.
Okay. So right now, open.
I don't want
date.
to commit.
Okay.
But
okay.
as
fine.
soon as possible.
Yeah, you just released this one, so there's
let it
pause muna.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
so we're
pause
using
muna.
the pause.
Okay. So lastly, can you invite everybody, all the Mak and Emongs? I'm not sure which camera you wanna
Yep.
to buy your book, to learn from it, why they should, and how can they do so?
Okay, so eto na po. Ito yung second installment of the FQ Trilogy, ang FQ Book 2, Why Financial Education Alone Does Not Work, a crash course in behavioral economics. Ito po yung fusion ng traditional economics na ina-assume laging rational tayo and psychology, kung ano yung totoong nangyayari. And then on the flip side, ayan na style pabaliktad. The flip side is the psychology of money, and it discusses 16 behavioral economics principles so that you know where you are, kung ano po ang inyong me score or Mak Emong score. Pag naintindihan nyo yan po ng mabuti, parang you will now appreciate yourself and other people more, para mas maganda yung mga desisyon na nagagawa natin sa buhay natin. Hindi lang sa pera ito, pati sa relationship, sa career, and all the other important aspects of life. So let's embrace our Mak and Emongness and let us really understand it so that we can live a better life more effortlessly.
Okay. Lastly, where can they...
Okay,
Sorry,
so
something you want to add?
Yeah. Okay, so let's go back to the book. They can buy it. It's already available on Lazada. Ewan ko kung pati Shopee. But if you want your autographed copy, please go to fqmom.com and click books. Tapos, Anton, maybe we can also invite them already because March now, it's Women's Month, by the way. We're going to launch a new show.
Yes.
Kumukumo na rin po kami. FQ Mom na po ako.
FQ. Okay. Go ahead, please.
Okay, yes. So I'd like to invite you also to please check us out. It's going to be every Thursday at 11 a.m. It's called Money Lessons from FQ Mom and Son. Kasi every episode may isang anak akong hahaltakin. For the first episode, it's going to be on March 4, 11 a.m. on Kumu. I will be with Martin, our firstborn. So first son, first episode, and we will be talking about first money lessons. And you will be my next,
the second
right?
one, March 11, next week.
Comment nyo lang kung ano yung mga gusto nyong pag-usapan natin.
Okay, so again, Ma, congratulations with this book. I would have read it. I enjoyed the read even if you weren't my mom, and I would have to say that it's a good read. There are a lot of concepts and information, but it's done in a very understandable way. If before we were forced to read Shakespeare, I needed to buy the No Fear Shakespeare to understand it. There's no need for that. This is the one that it explains it already. It's a big book, but it's an easy read.
Thank you.
Okay, so congratulations and thank you for your time, Ma, and for guesting here. I'll see you later for lunch.
Bye. Thank you, everyone.